Cowboys versus Cardinals. Now, some of us thought that the Cowboys were going to win, some of us thought the Cardinals were going to win. Well, fortunately for me, Cowboys were one of the few predictions I got right on my last week's weekly picks. But when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, they had a win that they should have gotten, and the Cardinals still just don't look that impressive, and I really just don't feel as if that they are a playoff team. Now, when it comes to this, I watched a little clip, a little 5-minute clip on YouTube of the first take notion. Obviously, they had Stephen A. Smith on there, gave his point, same with Max Kellerman, of course. So they had the normal cast with Louis Riddick, who also gets on there sometimes. And I think Molly Quirm she didn't really say anything, but overall, how they were talking about this is that Stephen A. Smith was like, the Cardinals aren't good, and the Cowboys, who he wasn't really impressed by because Arizona's just struggling. So that's his argument that the strength of schedule isn't really there with Dallas compared to how they looked last week against the Broncos. Max Kellerman said that he said DeMarcus Lawrence looks like a stud. He said Dak Prescott looks very special. And then Louis Riddick also agreed with Max Kellerman there. And he talked about how there's this idea about kind of changing, kind of looking for praise. And there was some things that I saw Dak Prescott improve in, but there were some things where I felt it was almost as if he was a pendulum. He went from like a short passing quarterback who was great on third down to a deep passing quarterback who wasn't great on third down. So this is something I look at, and that's definitely something I'm going to talk about later. And I have been critical on Dak Prescott. And this is very important because Max Kellerman is one of the guys that told me that he compared Dak Prescott to Tom Brady, and he said that he could be kind of up there as one of these stars in the league. Now, Dak Prescott, a lot of people love Dak Prescott. What determines you to be a star in this league is how much people love you. I mean, that's just how it works. And to be honest, Dak Prescott, he doesn't seem like a bad guy and all that. But then he starts talking about Alex Smith, another quarterback I've been very critical on. Links in the description if you're interested. But as of right now, keep watching these guys because this is much watch football IQ right here. And when it comes to this, I just feel that I'm just not as big as Dak Prescott. I think they are definitely giving him some high expectations, so I'm definitely going to grade him high up there. And I just look at it and think to myself, I don't think he was really that special last night. Obviously, he didn't do a bad job. He did a pretty good job out there. I'm not saying it was a bad job. It was a pretty good job, but I feel like I'm leaning more to Stephen A. Smith. But when it comes to Max Kellerman and Louis Riddick, obviously Stephen A. Smith is a Cowboys hater, but Max Kellerman and Louis Riddick, we're talking about DeMarcus Lawrence, how this guy could look like a stud. Obviously, that man had a very good night, 3 sacks, which what he should do against the Cardinals offensive line. For instance, I think it was Serd Lear. He was going off the Sen Lear, but if you don't know his name, he's probably not good, and he wasn't very good. And DeMarcus Lawrence ate him up with 6 sacks. So that's definitely something that I looked at, and that was something that you could click on the link in the description if you're interested. But please, after this video. So if you don't know how my videos work, I talk about how good I talk about the winning team first, so the Cowboys, and then I talk about the losing team last, and the Cardinals. And with the winning team, I talk about the negatives and get the negatives out of the way. But then I talk about the positives second. If you want the times, look in the description if you want that. And with the Cardinals, I talk about the positives first and then the negatives last. And the reason why I want to end them on the note that they deserve them. So the Cowboys, since they won, deserve to end on a positive note, versus the Cardinals, since they lost, deserve to end on a negative. That's how I put it. If you want the times in the description, as I said, I put them down there. If you just want to hear straight Cowboys talk or straight Cardinals talk, straight positive talk, straight negative talk, you do you. It's in the description. I will give you the times down there. Now, when it comes to the Cowboys, I feel like there's a lack of a starting quarterback right there. I really do. Larry Fitzgerald completely ate up that secondary. And trust me, the coverage wasn't absolutely terrible. But Dallas hasn't had a true, legit number one quarterback. Some people would say Brandon Carr was that, but I wasn't a big Brandon Carr guy. I just wasn't. I just think you can exploit him if you're one of the better receivers in the league. But I really feel as if that they need that starting cornerback right there. I mean, over the offseason, Des Bryant tried to recruit Darrelle Revis. He really wanted to bring them in there. And when I look at the Cowboys have a decent secondary. They just lack that starting corner. If they get that starting corner right there, a lot of people would be turning their heads to Dallas and really be looking at them. Now, another thing I would like to look at is I definitely feel as if that they only had 99 yards rushing with that offensive line with Ezekiel Elliott and with Dak Prescott since he can also move. And 3.8 yards per attempt, which is a little bit disappointing. I like to look at Zeke with between the 4 and 5 mark, of course. Obviously, a lot of people would say, well, if you do 3 yards per carry, it's definitely a successful run in the NFL. Yeah, but the Cowboys have much higher expectations when you have Tyrone Smith and Travis Frederick and all that with the other offensive linemen. And then you have Elliott and then Prescott. Obviously, the rushing yards should be up and whatnot. Then you have third down. Third down was atrocious, 2 for 9. I mean, you gotta be kidding me out there. 2 for 9. Dak Prescott did really well the short pass. He has Cole Beasley, who's a good route runner. He has a lot of talent right there. He also has Jason Witten, so there's players there that he can throw to. So he has plenty of talent to be used in the short yardage situation. The Cardinals, I don't really think they're built to defend against the short pass as well. That just doesn't feel as if that's how they play, obviously. And I definitely look at this and 2 for 9 on third down. It's atrocious. The average third down percentage in the NFL is 39%, so almost 40%. Well, they're below that average. They're 34%. That's an issue right there, especially with the amount of talent around them. And then you look at how they kind of went against a scrubby old line. I think when you talk about the Dallas Cowboys, they definitely have talent on that D line. There's no doubt in my mind. If you tell me that they don't have talent, I think you're talking out of your butt right there. But the offensive line, it's really Mike Upati. That's the only big name right there. That's the only guy you really get concerned about. And that guy's a left guard, right guard, whatever. He's a guard. He's not a tackle. So DeMarcus Lawrence has really just ate up a bad tackle right there. And obviously, I think I have faith in Lawrence. I've seen Lawrence produce before. It's just I'm not going to get so giddy up. If he's going up against Trent Brown, if he's going up against Lane Johnson, if he's going up against Marcus Cannon, if he's going up against some of the premier right tackles in the league, yeah, okay, get excited about that. Get excited about that. And I definitely thought that only 273 yards of offense is a concern right there because the offense of the Cowboys is so freaking talented. It is so talented and so gifted. If you only have 273 yards, it feels as if it's underachievement. 99 of those were rushing yards, believe it or not. So Dak Prescott, despite having two good deep passes right there, two good scrambles, he was under 200 yards passing, which is a little bit concerning for him. And I just feel as if that I am naming all these statistics here. I usually just don't do it. And it's not like I'm anti-statistics. I just don't think that the pallbearer of the NFL. Do I believe statistics are overrated? Yes. And if you know my definition of overrated does not mean bad. Overrated means they get too much credit. And I think a lot of people point to the statistics too much. And I'm naming off these statistics, but I'm supporting them, but I'm countering them kind of with the idea, well, you're 2 for 9 on third down, yet you have the offensive talent to do better. So it's almost as if I'm using the statistics to point at something right here. I'm not going to really label them for all that. I think completion percentage was really fine for them. I mean, that should be fine. I mean, the 6 sacks, I'll give it to them. That's impressive. I mean, 6 sacks is 6 sacks in the game. It's really hard to get. And I just look at that and think to myself, like, those are something the Cowboys need to work on. Because I don't think the Cowboys, we're not going to see what they were in 2016. At least that's what I think. I think we're looking at a 10-6 team right here in the Dallas right here. But there are a lot of pauses right here because they did win the game. So when it comes to their big running plays, they had a lot of big ones that game. They probably had like 2, maybe 3 big running plays, which were very important, kind of getting to the outside a lot. When I say the 3.8 yards per attempt, it's really much lower than that, I would say, because 3 of those attempts went for like 10 or 20 yards. So if you put that in perspective, there's 3 attempts that went for 60, but then all his other attempts, they really went for 30 yards. So it's a little bit lower. However, it's still good. They still had some big running plays. The running game was still there. And Ezekiel Elliott was still used as a great decoy. They ran so much play action last night, so much play action. Like Elliott, just having Elliott on the field is so important right here. And I feel as if how well Elliott is and how they're using Elliott is really good. And sure, they're using Elliott as a decoy they might not be using, but that's a great game plan. I thought that was a good idea from Jason Garrett right there. And with that, they found alternative ways to run the ball, like Dak Prescott read option. I know they like to run it in with Dak Prescott a lot of time, but usually they do this run where it's just a quarterback draw up the middle, kind of obvious, kind of, well, doesn't really put Dak in any danger. Dak like flipped over like a couple guys, and I thought, wow, that's a good character right there. Really using read option, because that's one of my criticisms about Dak Prescott. For a quarterback that's really mobile, he doesn't really use his legs to really go off for a lot of rushing yards. I feel as if he's not one of these quarterbacks that go for rushing yards, nor is he as a scrambler, which I thought Dak Prescott also improved on. He looked like a better scrambler right there. And I thought that's definitely something I like to look at. Sure, the pendulum might have swung with Dak Prescott, as I said, when it comes to his play style. However, he definitely looked different. I think that looking about that, he definitely has the ability. Now, when it comes to this, Des Bryant, obviously, I made a video if he is overrated. Most of my videos, I'm usually just straight out, he is overrated. But right here, I thought to myself, personally, I like Des, and I think I've seen Des go up against some of the great corners, as like Richard Sherman, do well. Obviously, he went up against Patrick Peterson. I thought he did well. But I leave the question open up for interpretation, because a lot of people are questioning that he's overrated. Made a video on clicking the link in the description. But guys, you guys want to keep on watching this. You really do want to keep on watching this right here. And when it comes to this, I really, really feel that Des Bryant balls freaking hard. He is a baller. That's something that a lot of wide receivers need to trace. He ain't Demaryius Thomas, okay? Demaryius Thomas doesn't ball. Demaryius Thomas is a little pouty guy who will shy away in a big moment and just not show up right there. He's just not that tough. Des Bryant, I think, is a little bit tougher. I definitely see some toughness. I definitely see the winner right here. But he definitely does not look like as if he was his 2014 form. And obviously, that's maybe not having Tony Romo right there. Now, I've been critical of Tony Romo too. Click in the link in the description if you're interested, obviously. But when it comes to this, the difference between Tony Romo and Dak Prescott is Tony Romo tries to make more plays versus Dak Prescott. Obviously, Dak tried to make plays last night, but he didn't have his same game. He didn't add on to that. It was just more like swinging the pendulum, and it was against a bad defense. But I need to keep talking about the positive. I'm trying to stay optimistic. And I definitely look at that, and I think that's definitely an upside with how Dak Prescott played, showing another side of him. Very good play action. Elliott as a decoy, and they scored the most amount of points this season. So they're moving in the right direction. The past 2 weeks, they only scored like 15 points per game, which is very low for the amount of talent they have on the roster. But since they got 28 points this game, that's going to bump them up a little bit, despite about that. But it still looks good. It's in the right direction. They got a win that they deserve. Cowboys did with their job. Good job, them boys. Now, when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, I thought the Arizona Cardinals did a good job handling Elliott. Yes, I thought Elliott was a guy that he might have been used as a decoy, but he was eaten up in that game. I mean, Hassan Reddick really showed something right there. If you don't know who Hassan Reddick was, he was the 13 overall pick out of Temple, and he was the guy that was a walk-on in college, believe it or not, and he turns into a first-round pick, which is very, very rare to see. But obviously, props to him. Did a very good job, and I thought when you look at that, you feel as if you handle Elliott, because to be honest, he had 3.8 yards per carry. That's under 4 yards. And to be honest, if they didn't have three big runs, if Tyrann Mathieu makes that tackle early on when they had that big 30-yard run and all of that, you're talking about the average more looking like 2 yards or less than 2 yards, something not nearly as good. And then I think something that I like to go at is Ellington. Obviously, he did a decent job to open up the game. He opened up the game well, getting some receptions right there, just showing a little bit of a threat, just playing that he's still there, and just next man up. It might not have been the best attempt at the next man up, but at least was something. And then Palmer, one of Palmer's best traits is his ability to move well in the pocket. I think that's why he has a very good statistics on deep balls on thirds down, because if he's getting pressured, he just kind of just moves back and forth, and he just does it very, very well. That's the one thing that Carson Palmer is probably the best in the league at. I still think he's overrated, though, just because there's so many things, other things to quarterbacks. Click in the link in the description, obviously, after you're done watching this video, of course. And then you can't not look at Larry Fitzgerald. Larry Fitzgerald, some of the things might have been garbage time, but for the most part during the game, it wasn't garbage time until Bryce Butler made that touchdown, or the Ezekiel Elliott, where Bryce Butler made that catch. Thought it was a touchdown because Tyrann Mathieu didn't touch him, and Ezekiel Elliott runs in. That wasn't garbage time until then. And Fitzgerald, he freaking balls. And that's very important. A lot of people say, well, it's Larry Fitzgerald. It's supposed to be expected. Larry Fitzgerald is 34 years old. If you didn't know that, that's the age of decline for receivers. As you heard with running backs, it's 30 for down. For wide receivers, since they usually take less punishment, Larry Fitzgerald's at 34. And this is really, really impressive by Larry because Larry's not a guy that just he's not. It's when you watch Larry Fitzgerald, it's not as if you're watching Usain Bolt. You're not watching a guy just run up and down the field on them, running laps around him. Like he's a guy that plays kind of physical, and he will go up in the middle against some safeties and linebackers and all that. He isn't scared to go up there. The fact that he's still playing at 34 at a high level is tremendous. Props to Larry right there. Props to him. Just shrugging off father time for another year, or it looks as if the U will do that. Also, I thought Chandler Jones had a pretty good game. I thought that he got some sacks right there, and he's going up against good talent right there in Dallas. We all know how good the Dallas O-line is. And Chandler Jones, to be honest, when he was in New England, I truly thought that he was a good player. He wasn't really a great player. It looks like with the Cardinals, he's emerging as a great player, and maybe that's just how though. Maybe it's just how Arians plays that he can really help him out, just kind of using him as a pass rusher. Obviously, New England used him more as a DN. They have him more used as a outside linebacker. He's looking quite good out there. He's really useful for it's good value right there, right there. And obviously, he was good in 2016. Now he's looking good in 2017. So that's something to look positive on. And then, and I think one thing to definitely look at is I thought that they had 36 minutes of possession time, almost over 36 minutes, to be exactly 36 minutes and 15 seconds, which is actually good. Obviously, time of possession isn't really the most important thing in the world. However, you are facing against the Cowboys, and the Cowboys usually have a good time of possession, or at least I believe they have a good time of possession. Maybe not as recently, but they definitely exploited that, and that's definitely something that I thought was look good. Now, obviously, a loss is a loss, and I'm going to have to get to the negatives. Okay? So, I definitely thought that Matthews didn't really look that great. I really didn't think that he really did anything in that game. At the end of the game with the Bryce Butler kind of play where Bryce Butler fell on the ground, they had to review it. They ruled it a touchdown, but apparently Tyrann Mathieu touched what looked like he was going to go into a wedgie for Bryce Butler, but he just kind of pat him right there. There's no fight in Tyrann Mathieu. There was no fight at the end of the game with him. He just kind of was just like, whatever, give it up. That's not a good character trait. I felt like he gave up at the end of the game, and I really thought that the game's not too far away. It was really an 11-point game at the end, and by that point, if it's 21-17, you've got to play much more aggressively. And if let's just say you stopped them before that 21-17, you're looking at or stopped them, you held them to a field goal. It's a touchdown game right there. And Tyrann Mathieu is just quitting. He's quitting already. The character, the individual character of the Arizona Cardinals concerns me. The talent is there with the Cardinals. Their character is very concerning. It is concerning. Then you got Phil Dawson, who is one of their big free agency acquisitions, believe it or not. Yes, a kicker. Supposed to be a cocky guy, supposed to do well with Arians. If you don't know why, I've talked about this in my season with the all or nothing, a season with the Arizona Cardinals, where in 2015. Talk about that. Click in the link in the description if you're interested with the review. And I talk about how Arians is a very pissed off individual. He yells at players, so you really need a confident you need a lot of confident players. That's what Phil Dawson's supposed to be, and that was the reason why they brought him in, because he's supposed to be confident. Well, he missed an easy field goal, and it was pretty close, and you're also in a dome. Inexcusable, Dawson, inexcusable. And that's definitely something that had a concern, because I believe Costanzo in 2015 or 2016, or whatever his name is, he was terrible. He wasn't a very good kicker at all, and they got rid of him. And I think that's definitely something that looks bad. And then also, they only had 49 yards rushing, so without David Johnson, there is some hurt. Sure, they have pass catches right there, but Chris Johnson isn't going to really revive that. At least I don't think. And 2.3 yards per attempt. Obviously, if you're anywhere under 3 yards per carry, no team is going to respect your run. And ideally, Carson Palmer is just going to keep on throwing picks. So they need to do something about the run game. Maybe make an acquisition for some sort of player. Maybe, hey, I mean, they could go for Adrian Peterson. I heard he might be on the market. He's not looking too. You might have to take a gamble right there. I don't think Peterson's looking too great. So that's definitely something to look at. And then the Cardinals, with their great vertical offense, yards per play, 4.4 yards per play. That sucks, okay? For a team that's a deep ball offense, we all know Arians loves to chuck the ball deep. If it's third down, need to convert for 9. No, we're just going to chuck it deep. That's just how they believe. And then 5.2 yards per pass play. That's just bad. I mean, that's bad by Palmer right there. This is why I'm not a big Palmer guy. And when in the NFL Top 100, when he was ranked number 12 in the league, and this is in 2016, not 2017. 2017 is a different one, but this is 2016 when the Cardinals made the NCAA 12. Oh god, that was absolutely a putrid ranking. Should have been lowered, maybe in the 20s, respectively. Obviously, he was an MVP candidate. I get it, but 5.2 yards per pass. Oh, that's really, really bad, especially for that vertical offense and whatnot. And I just look at that and think to myself that the Cardinals season, you got the talent, Cardinals fans, you got the talent. However, it just seems as if that the playoffs just don't seem to be coming soon, and maybe you're going to have to wait to the next era, not to sound too pessimistic. But it's only week 3 of the season, so don't worry too much. And also with the Cowboys, obviously, you got a win that you should have gotten, so you almost feel like, phew, if I'm a Cowboys fan, phew, we beat the Cardinals. You should feel pretty good that at least that they can beat a team like that and that it's not a complete disaster. There's still a lot of faith there. Obviously, Cardinals have a lot of talent, just not something I look at. Don't have a ton of faith, but they got the talent there, so you at least got to respect them as a team that could potentially make it. Now, I make a bunch of other videos, guys. I have them all linked in the description. You probably heard me spout all of them every once in a while about them. And that's definitely something that I think if you have time, click on them if you're interested. And all right, guys, share your thoughts down below. Like, subscribe, of course, because it's amazing. This channel is better than freaking Total Pro Sports, of course, and all that. So overall, guys, thanks for watching the video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.